Hello, in this problem, we are given a white rook and a white bishop, and the goal is to capture the black queen. We are also given the positions of these three pieces, and the most important part is that the black queen cannot move to defend itself. And we have to find the minimum number of moves required to capture the black queen. Let's try to understand this problem using a chessboard. So here we have our board set up with all the three pieces. Let's first try to find out the maximum number of moves that will be required to capture the queen. There's one important property about a rook, is that it can go to any square on the board in at most 2 moves. And since the queen cannot defend itself when it is attacked, we are going to need at most 2 moves to capture the queen. Let's see in how many ways we can capture the queen in one move by the rook. If the queen is already in the same row or the same column as the rook, then we can capture the queen in only one move. Similarly for a bishop, if the queen is already on the same diagonal, then it can be captured in only one move. And for checking if the queen belongs on the same diagonal as the bishop, for one of the diagonals we can check by using the sum of the row and the column. And for the other diagonal, we can check that by finding the difference between the row and the column. But there are some corner cases that we have to be careful of. For instance, the rook and the queen are belonging to the same row. But if there was a bishop in between, in that case we won't be able to capture the queen in only one move. Similarly, when they belong on the same column, but a bishop is blocking the path, in that case also we cannot capture the queen in only one move. This is going to be true for a bishop as well. When they are belonging on the same diagonal, but a rook is in between, then the queen cannot be captured in only one move. So we just have to check if the queen and the rook are already on the same row or the same column. And if it is not blocked by a bishop in between, then we can capture it in one move. Similarly, we'll check if the queen and the bishop are on the same diagonal and it is not blocked by a rook in between, then we can capture it in one move. Otherwise, we'll need 2 moves. So we just have to check some positions, so the time and the space complexity will be constant. Let's implement our solution. Here I have already implemented the solution. In the first part over here, we are checking if the rook and the queen belong on the same row. Then we are checking if the bishop is not in the same row. In that case, we know that the queen can be captured in only one move, so we are returning 1. And if the bishop belongs in the same row, we have to check that the bishop is not in between. So we'll check that the column of the bishop is not in between the columns of the rook and the queen. Hence we are checking that the column of the bishop is not in between the column of the rook and the queen. And we are doing the same thing for both the directions. If there is no clash, then we can return 1. Similarly, if we are checking that the column of the rook and the queen is the same, and if the bishop does not belong in the same column, then we can directly return 1. And if the bishop belongs in the same column, we have to check that the row of the bishop is not in between. So we are making a similar comparison to check if the row is not in between for both the directions. And if there is no clash, we can directly return 1. And over here, we are checking if the queen can be captured by the bishop. There are 2 diagonals for a bishop, so we have written 2 conditions separately. This is for checking if the queen and the bishop belong in the same diagonal 1. We'll also check if the rook also belongs on the same diagonal. If it does not belong on the same diagonal, we can directly return 1. Otherwise, we can check that the row of the rook is not in between the row of the bishop and the queen. If it is not in between, we can directly return 1. Similarly, we are going to check for the second diagonal, which will be the sum of the row and the column. In that case also, we'll first check if the rook belongs on the same diagonal. If it is not, then we can directly return 1. Otherwise, we'll have to check if its row is in between the queen and the bishop. If there is no clash, we can return 1. In all the other scenarios, we cannot capture the queen in one move, but we already know that we can capture it in 2 moves, so we can return 2. We are done with our solution. If you have any doubts or concerns or feedback regarding this solution, please mention in the comments. If this video is helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you for watching and see you soon.